James Blunt is really excited to do this review. I haven't done a review of Irish Vineyards wines from Oregon. This is Southern Willamette Valley. Stay tuned, I'll give you my thoughts, perspectives on 4 wines. It's a Brut wine, as well as a red blend, a Pinot Gris, and a Pinot Noir. Stay tuned, I'll give you my thoughts and perspectives on this producer. Be sure to subscribe to see the latest videos that I'm producing, and please give a like. So this is a producer of sparkling wines. They have a Brut, a Blanc de Blanc, and a Blanc de Noir wine, as well as Chardonnay, Pinot Gris, Pinot Noir, Syrah, and a red wine blend. So I'll talk about 4 wines. Now I'm gonna have 3 representative glasses, but I had to do one change out on the red wine, the Pinot Noir, and the red wine blend. This is a large estate, 870 acres, 43 planted under vine, and that is 10.5 of Pinot Gris, 3% of this is Chardonnay, as well as 26.5 of Pinot Noir, and 3% are under development for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. Now they have the following soils: Jory, Laurelwood, Willackenzie, and Dupree. These are the main soil types. There could be others as well, but this is what I gleaned from the website. So there are several soil types. So the soil types are the following. I'll just describe 3 of them: the Jory, Laurelwood, and the Willackenzie. Jory is volcanic clay. If you look at the soil content itself, it's going to look like almost like ground clove, almost no red, in fact. There's Laurelwood, which is wind-blown silt, which is almost like, if you look at ground light roasted coffee, it could look like that, except not as finely ground. The Willackenzie is really interesting. I've seen diggings of this in person. It's really cool. It's a very nice material that has a very definitive variation in composition. Some of it's very chunky and some of it's a very sandy clay-like material, but it's a very, very light tan colorization. Now the winemaker is Aaron Lieberman and the vineyard manager is Arpad Walker. And so I think this is a really nice producer. I think the price points, I'll delineate those in a moment. I think they're really approachable wines, especially when I look at a lot of producers that I review today, which are maybe double the price points that I review. And so I think you get a solid glass of wine, a really thoughtful, well-crafted bottle of wine, and displays and tastes very well out of the wine glass, of course. So first I want to talk about the sparkling wine. This is a Brut non-vintage wine. Here's a back label for you to look at here. Now this is a combination of Pinot Noir, Pinot Gris, as well as Chardonnay. And it's aged in French oak, 210 cases in total. So the dosage is superbly low, 2.5 grams per liter. This could be marked as a extra Brut wine, but instead they just leave it as a Brut wine. And I think in many ways, maybe that's based on experience. People are not familiar with extra Brut, but they, tasting is believing, right? So you taste this wine and, you've just been told you've had a Brut wine, but you've also been made aware that you're tasting an extra Brut, which is nice because you can really understand the characterization of this wine. So some vinification notes is: once at the winery, the grapes are gently pressed, whole clusters to minimize extraction and bitter phenolic compounds. The juice was settled in tank and then racked to barrel for a slow, cool fermentation. Now, to maintain brightness and fresh acidity, they did not allow malolactic fermentation to occur. When the base wine is ready, they tirage the bottling at their facility and store the bottling for a secondary fermentation and aging in tirage bins. So nose on this is passion fruit, white peach, white floral notes, and biscuit as well. Next is the palate characterization. So this is, I would say, if I were to guess, this is mainly a Pinot Noir and a Pinot Gris wine, and maybe a very small amount of Chardonnay, maybe 30% is my guess, and definitely tastes like that. And that is not a value judgment, it's just expressing what the wine is itself. Now, nicely vibrant and lively wine, fresh snapshot, fresh characterization of passion fruit, almond, toast, in white floral notes. This is a 92 wine out of 100 points. Now this is a $29.99 price pointed wine. Now this is the state wine, white wine, and yes, you could say that for Chardonnay as well, which I definitely love. Oregon Chardonnay, there's much less of it, of course, much more Pinot Gris. And just because there's a lot of Pinot Gris does not mean it's not to be appreciated. I definitely reach for and enjoy Pinot Gris from Oregon. I don't taste a lot of Pinot Gris, say, from the West Coast other than Oregon. Oregon has done a fantastic job with the Pinot Gris that they do have, and this is not the Pinot Gris you might taste from Alsace or other regions. Even Germany has a good amount of Pinot Pinot Gris, and I think it's a nice, handsome, gorgeous wine. Now, the Pinot Gris is clones 146, Dijon clones 146, 152. Now, the vinification notes are the following. The fruit was whole cluster pressed into stainless steel tanks to settle for a day before racking into another stainless steel tank for fermentation. Once fermentation was complete, they racked again, chilled the wine for cold stability and to prevent malolactic fermentation. So that really expresses in terms of the wine itself. There's a viewpoint of this wine. It's also a very nice, I think, viewpoint, winemaking viewpoint as well. So this wine is a nice pale straw colorization. If you look at on this with a piece of paper on the bottom, it's superbly beautiful. Now the nose on this wine is Yellowstone fruit, almost like a crumbly biscuit. Yes, I know there's no malolactic fermentation on there, as well as moistened shell and floral notation. Next is the palate characterization. On Pinot Gris, I taste when people are serving Pinot Gris, and sometimes it's too cold. Serve this at, not slightly room temperature, of course. I take it out of the refrigerator for about 15 minutes prior to serving, just to warm it up just a bit, because I want the notation to come through. I want the nose and the palate to really express itself nicely and cleanly and accurately. So on this wine, gorgeous texture, white and Yellowstone fruit, oyster shell note, as well as pine nut. And so this wine is 93 points out of 100 points. This wine is $15.99. It's a solid, beautiful, gorgeous wine. So next, I'll talk about the red wine blend. Now let me show you the label close. This is Irish Vineyard. It says House Call Oregon Red Blend 2019 vintage. Back label for you to look at here. Now the grapes are sourced from Rogue Valley in Southern Oregon. Now this is a composition of the following fruit, that is 50% Cab Franc, 32% Malbec, and 18% Merlot, 13.9% ABV. And soil series on the fruit is basically newborn, Camus, and Evans. Vinification is the fruit was brought to the winery and destemmed into 1.25 ton fermenters. Once the fermentation each lot was complete, they pressed to tank for 1 to 2 days and settled prior to racking into barrel. The wine lots were kept separate in barrel until July of 2020, when they were blended together and returned to barrel for further aging. Now I'll talk next about the scent characterization as well as a palate characterization. So a characterization of cassis, cherry, anise, as well as autumnal forest and dried herbs. And next, the palate characterization. Really beautiful palate on this wine. I love the fresh herbaceous quality of, say, the Cabernet Franc is really, I think, evident in this wine. Though at 50%, I think it's giving a pleasant expression, as well as red cherry, crushed red candy, savory notes, mineral, and bay leaves. So it comes together, and a nicely balanced wine, but one that is completely appreciable. And I think the price point on this is superbly low at $19.99. I think all the wines are high quality, and I think you get a lot for your money. And if you look at other producers, not just Oregon, but around the US, Western US, you're not going to find these wines at these price points, at these quality measures as well. So I think that's the other point out on these wines. So one thing I noticed immediately is the colorization on this wine is completely appreciable, because put a piece of white paper down and look through this wine, because you can definitely see. I love the colorization of cathedral stained glass window. It's semi-vitreous and beautiful colorization of not overly macerated Pinot Noir. So here's the front label of this wine, and here's the back label. Now this is 13% ABV. Now this is an élevage of 100% French oak. 7.1% of this is new French oak. So the clones on this are Vaudinsville, Pomar, Dijon 115, 114, 113, 777, and 667. Several vineyard sites are implemented here. That is Chalice Estate, Robinson, Hidden Rock, Barking Dog, and 10 Peaks as well. Vinification is the fruit is gently destemmed in a stainless steel tanks to 1.25 ton open top fermenters, and to ferment each individual vineyard parcel. Once fermentation is complete, the tanks and ferments were pressed separately and then barrel aged. After aging through July, the lots were then blended together to build this complex wine. Now, I think this is a really lovely wine. I love the signatures of especially Vaudinsville. I have a love affair with the clone itself. I think it expresses nicely, beautifully, something you see quite plentifully in Oregon, less so in California. And when you think of Oregon in particular, this is a producer I've not tasted from before, so it's exciting to taste this producer. But you look at the total sunshine days, because the sun's going to go down later. It's a different experience altogether. You look at the way the roads are different from California row orientation. There's many differences. And so when I taste an Oregon Pinot Noir like this, I'm tasting a different wine altogether. This is not a California Pinot Noir from any region, and that's the beauty of this wine. Also, I'm going to point out, this is $23.99. I think you get a ton for your money for this wine. It's superbly beautiful, gorgeous, and just a delightful, sophisticated wine. And so you don't have to pay a lot of money for a sophisticated, gorgeous wine. Now, talking about this wine, I'll talk first about the nose. So the nose is mountain strawberry notes, freshly shaved wood, purple flowers, fresh herbs and spices. And next, the palate characterization. So gorgeous freshness on this wine, appreciable acidity, fantastic front palate. On this, I'm getting notes of boysenberry, cross between black and red raspberry notation, as well as white pepper notes. Graphite for a nice definitive mineral characterization. Tarragon and wild sage. This wine is 94 points out of 100 points. More reviews to come, but before I do so, talking about the closure of this video, seek producers like this out. If you've not tasted Pinot Gris from Oregon or Pinot Noir or any other varieties or sparkling wine, definitely seek them out and see if you can receipt wines from Oregon. I think it's a really nice value price point. High quality wines. I think it's a superb operation producing beautiful wines. So this producer definitely sees their North Star in terms of really beautiful balanced wines, but also not just producing for the balance sheet in terms of many corporate wines that are produced today, but wines that I think are going to be completely elegant, beautiful, gorgeous. I like to taste their aged wines, their Chardonnay, their Blanc de Blanc, their Blanc de Noir. There's a lot to taste and to see their large, beautiful estate. I think wines like this are, proof positive of so many lively, beautiful family, small producers today that are producing handsome, gorgeous wines. Thank you for watching. Seek out this producer. Their website's down below, and stay tuned for more reviews to come. Please subscribe to this channel to see the latest videos that I'm producing. Please give a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video review. Between experiences, please pen me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll have a conversation there, and I will see you in the next video review. Share this with somebody who's seeking out fantastic, approachable price point, high quality wines. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I will see you very soon. Santé.